Good evening and welcome to Fact Sheet on ETV Ghana. Here, if it is not the fact, we will not discuss it. Tonight, we are discussing women and digitization, not just in Ghana but across the globe. Let me start off with a report that was recently published by the World Wide Web Foundation. And they say that a failure to ensure women have equal access to internet has cost low-income countries a whopping $1 trillion. That's about 730 billion pounds sterling. And that's not all. By 2025, it is set to cost low-income countries some $500 billion. So tonight we are asking the question, in the wave of government's agenda to digitalize the systems in Ghana, how are we positioning women to actually lead the fore so that we are able to reap the benefits of ICT or technological evolution that is currently spreading across the globe? That is the focus of our conversation for tonight. Let's go for a quick break. When we return, I'll introduce to you my guests for tonight who help us talk about the policies and interventions as well as programs that have been instituted by government. We're looking at the policy gaps and what we can do as a country to benefit from the inherent technological evolution that is sweeping across the world. This is Fact Sheet live on ETV Ghana. We'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us. This is Fact Sheet live on ETV Ghana. It is also live on NISIM 100.1 in Tamale. And it's also streaming live on our Facebook page at ETV Ghana. But before I even introduce my guest for tonight's discussion, let me give you a bit of data or statistics on ICT infrastructure in the country, the number of phones that people are using, the penetration of internet in Ghana. According to a report, a digital 2021 report by datareportal.com, internet users in Ghana stands at 15.70 million as of January 2021. Now, the number of internet users in Ghana increased by some 943,000 people between 2020 and 2021. Now, according to a household survey on ICT in Ghana that was conducted by the NCA, it is also indicated that about 54.1 individuals aged 5 years and above own functional mobile phones in this country. Now, more individuals own basic phones, that's around 47.9%, and smartphones, 46.1%, as compared to feature phones, which is somewhere around 12%. Majority of the owners of the phones are men. Now, according to reports that are cited by the Media Foundation for West Africa, it indicated that women are most likely to be at the periphery when it comes to the access to digital infrastructure, not just in Ghana, but across the globe. The question is why? To help me answer this question tonight, I have in the studios Dr. Kofi Anang, who is an information technology consultant. He is an expert in the application of ICT for development. Doc, good evening.
Good evening.
And also joining us on the phone lines will be Dora Mauto, who is Programs Manager at the Media Foundation for West Africa. Good evening, Dora, if you can hear me. Let me start the conversation from in-house. The question is, why is it that despite the sweeping changes in technology across the globe, in Ghana, women still happen to find themselves at the periphery of accessing digital infrastructure?
Thank you very much, and that is a very good question. Yes, if I will want to, extrapolate back to the genesis of the evolution of this mobile technology. It started as a business, what we call device. And so at the initial stages, it were only business executives who were using these devices. And of course, most of these business executives happen to be male. And of course, within that space, male dominate. So then it started trickling down, the devices started becoming small, the prices started becoming a bit cheaper. And so now it moved from just business executives using it, then it came down to the ordinary person also affording those devices. And the issue here is that most of the time, men take the lead in anything that comes up. When it comes to job, everything, men are leading. And so this is not different with, when we look at some of these things that happen. But the worry here is that technology rather should bridge that gender gap in everything that we do, because here we are not using manpower, but we are using technology, which should be easy for the gender differences to be narrowed in terms of accessing this technology. But again, there are economic issues relating to this. As getting these devices requires certain financial distance, and the women in our part of the world and other less endowed world have certain financial challenges. And so that has contributed to that. Again, their exposure to technology has also not been that great as compared to that of men. And it is an issue that needs to be addressed, and I'm happy that you brought it up, and it needs to be looked at so that we begin to try to address the financial and other economic issue of the women, so that they will be empowered to also catch up with technology. And that, because if the average woman is thinking about feeding the children and that, he will not use the money to go and buy these devices, and it is secondary. But when certain issues are settled, then they have the luxury to also get into the technological space. Yeah.
Let me go to the phone lines and ask Dora Mauta, who is the programs manager at Media Foundation for West Africa, and ask her this direct question. Do you feel okay with the gender inequity in digital infrastructure? I mean, getting access to digital infrastructure in the country?
Hello, good evening, Sefa, and good evening to my cherished viewers.
Good evening.
Thank you for the question. I'm not sure any woman here in Ghana or elsewhere would ever be content with the inequality between men and women in digital spaces or elsewhere. And this is so because, you see, the digital technologies and the internet in particular provides lots of opportunities for everyone. And it's a tool, an empowering tool for self-development, for self-actualization, for education, for participation in public discourse, for anything social, anything political, everything is a transfer of or a migration of our offline everyday life onto the online space. And this is enabled by digital technologies. And so if there's inequality, if women are not able to access digital platforms, the internet space in particular, as much as men do, then it simply means that women are being left behind. And in a country where recent census shows that the female population is more than that of men, it is so unfortunate to have the majority, more of the majority offline, whereas we have lots of male counterparts online. We are not saying they should be less online, no. We are just saying that let's empower more women to have that access so that we can equally take advantage of the opportunities that the online space and the digital platforms provide.
Then I'll ask this question. Is it that you, the women, are not availing yourselves to the opportunities that are there within the digital system or digital infrastructure? Or is it that you're being, in a way, prevented from accessing those infrastructure to as a means of empowering yourself, as you mentioned?
Availability. We are available. Every woman is available, just like every man. And a number of factors comes into play when you talk about being online or engaging in digital spaces. I think one of the things you mentioned just about the time I joined the program, you were talking about issues of financial challenges and things like that. So to get into the internet space, you need at least a digital device. And that digital device must be internet enabled. And we know the young phones do not have internet connectivity. And with lots of women having access to young phones and others not even having the young phone, automatically there's a disconnection there. So you are not even having the device that enables you to connect. Then part of that inaccessibility to digital devices is the issue of funding, financing, affordability. The smartphones are quite expensive. And as you rightly indicated, if you have the smartphones being expensive and the data that enables you to connect also being expensive, and you have a family to feed, there is that likelihood to prioritize the need and let this one appear to be a want, even though in principle it is a need. There's also the challenge of online safety. Lots of harassment online, from cyberbullying to body shaming, doxing, and revenge pornography or disclosure of non-consensual disclosure of private images and videos, and offensive comments and a lot of things. And all these end up pushing women off the online space, the digital space. And also, there's a big challenge of digital literacy or digital know-how. So that even when someone has the smartphone, the ability to connect or use it in a profitable way becomes a challenge. It's not just a case of the women are not making themselves available. It's rather a number of issues that are preventing women to get into that space and to take advantage of the opportunity.
The number of issues that you mentioned, one of which you just touched on is it cyber bullying, cyber harassment that women tend to face? I asked Doc that particular question. How big is that an issue?
Yes, so that is a big deal.
It's a very big issue. A very big issue. Because in a recent research that was done by the Web Foundation, and just to mention that the Media Foundation's work on women's rights online is funded by the Women Web Foundation. And in a recent research they did, October last year, and of course our own research we had done here in the country just about 2-3 years back, the findings showed that one of the reasons why some women have decided not to be online is because of online harassment. And unfortunately, I'm not able to quote, but in one of the specific quotations that was cited in one of the reports, the respondent, a female respondent, clearly said just to have her sanity and to be sure that she is safe and no one is pursuing her, harassing her anyway, she had decided not to be online. That's one. The research we did also showed that there are some women online But because of the harassment and the attacks in the online space, they had decided to opt out. So they've gone offline. Okay. And it's a big challenge because it seeks to sometimes just silence people, humiliate people, put you in a state that you will not have that public confidence to engage in the space or in any other discourse that's going on. And so it is a very critical issue that needs to be addressed because if you feel threatened, if you feel unsafe, if you get an experience online that you know can also follow you offline, and you get an experience that could actually affect your psychological well-being, then you wouldn't want to expose yourself to that space. You would rather want to protect yourself. And so it's a big issue that needs to be addressed if we really want to get as many females as possible to be online, to also take advantage of the opportunities there and to engage in the spaces and better their lives and their well-being, then it's an issue that has to be addressed.
Dora, kindly hold on the line for me. Let me come back to the studio and continue with the conversation. How big is that an issue? How is that costing the empowerment of women, costing the economic liberation of women? Because there are vast opportunities online that a lot of people can actually exploit. But if women, as a result of the economic factors that you mentioned, as a result of the bullying or the harassment that they normally or usually face, then it means that they will not be able to tap into some of these opportunities that are there.
Yes.
Certainly.
Yes. And so that is the reason why in the just enacted Cybersecurity Act 2020 at 1038, provisions have been made to ensure that women are protected online. Now, these cyberbullying, cyberstalking, sextortion, and harassment is indeed, as my other colleague mentioned on phone, is one of the factors that is also, preventing women from boldly or expressing their views online or even going online. There have been instances that women have been receiving unsolicited love messages and other things that put their relationship with their spouses in danger, and therefore, if that will be it, then they will not go into.
They will decide not to go there again.
So I know somebody who has moved from using a smartphone to just using a feature phone for making calls because she encountered something that nearly embarrassed her. So that is an issue, and so
are we not having policies? Are we not having laws that are to protect not just everybody but also women in the country from some of these things?
Yeah, we do not have an explicit law or policy, but we have general policies and law that addresses online misconduct and other things. So, and that is why this research try to identify that in as much that we appreciate that there are certain policies and laws addressing online insecurity and all that, we must be emphatic to, address issues relating to women. In the new cybersecurity law, we have tackled issues on children, yes, but we haven't directly tackled issues on women, but it is implied that, for example, in the act, it said that if one should share sexual image, unsolicited sexual image of women, then you commit a crime and that. But then there's the need for us to address issues that pertain to women in our policies and in the law. All that we have do not necessarily address those things, but they give general provisions that it is implied that it will cover women. And so the cyberspace is a bit rough now.
Is it just rough for everybody, or
it is rough
a
for
particular group of the population are suffering from the roughness of
it is okay.
space.
It is rough for everybody, but women and children. Let me bring the children here because they are related. Women and children are more vulnerable in this space. And for example, now because of the anonymous nature that of the internet, you can be relating to people that you do not necessarily know who the person is.
Sure.
Yes, and a lot of young ladies are falling victim to this. They think that they are chatting with rare people, but the people at the other side are not the people that they think they are. And they have ended up divulging certain kind of information to them, which later they use it to now blackmail them. As a matter of fact, sextortion is a major issue that every day women have that kind of challenge with people who have certain kind of nude pictures or something from them.
I think there is a recent issue with one of the Nigerian singers whose sex tape or sex video is out now.
Yes, and some, they unknowingly do that. They think that the internet, or you just send, but what they should know, that transmitting this kind of information from your device to the other end is you putting yourself in a high risk because you don't know who is intercepting it. It is going through a lot of servers. It's going through a lot. The moment you release it, you go through the airspace, and the airspace will have hackers who may be intercepting your content and use it for other things. So it is not advisable to transmit certain personal information over these devices in the name of maybe I trust the person and that. Do not do that. And that is very important that we educate women on these things, that you do not expose yourself unknowingly because you think that I trust that person, you give her this information. And so that is important. You also have to understand that sometimes the devices, they are not able to control the devices they are holding well. The devices are so sophisticated for some of them that they are holding the device is on, but I said they don't know. The device is recording them, they don't know. They have downloaded some apps onto the devices that is able to activate itself and start doing other things without their knowledge. By accepting certain apps onto your phone too, you agree to the terms. And some of the apps ask for access to your camera, access to that.
Access to your
all
contact.
those ones, when I go to the technical aspect, in mobile app development, we call them dangerous permissions. We have two kinds of permissions when it comes to using mobile device. We have dangerous permission and normal permission. Now, dangerous permissions are permissions that you allow an app to access, and that app can use that to do something. For example, you say your location, access to your location, access to your audio, access to your SMS, access to your contact. Now, a typical example with WhatsApp and Facebook. Now, Facebook owns WhatsApp. And anytime you are installing WhatsApp, you say access to your contact. Okay? Now, if you do that, which you would do anyway, what happens anytime you receive WhatsApp call or you make a call or you do, Facebook pick that data. Yes. And it begins to use that to send certain kind of content to you. So you can make a call with or you receive a call. You go to your Facebook or on Facebook, people you may know. Because it's gathering data from you from all over the place. This is just one typical example. There may be other apps that may be using it to do other things. Or even Facebook collect this data, and other people who are able to access certain content from Facebook may pick it and do other things. So it is important that women are protected within this space by one. I believe that education is the main thing. They need to be educated on some of these things to understand what it entails, and I believe that will help reduce some of this risk that they expose themselves to. And then it comes to government for us to also create the enabling environment by creating certain acts that will protect them and ensure that their issues are adequately addressed in our policies and laws.
Let me pose this question to you, Dora. Doc said that we do not have an explicit law of a sort that seems to be protecting women when they are within the cyberspace. Question is it that we did not foresee that there could be a time that technological infrastructure will develop to the extent that certain vulnerable groups may need protection, and that we could have enacted laws ahead of time?
Okay, thank you. You see, the digital space is developing. Certainly, I'm sure the anticipation was there. Maybe how evasive or pervasive it was going to be could not be determined then. But I think to have policies and some laws that somehow, though not fully, attempt to address some of the issues, provide an indication that the thinking was there. Maybe it's about how exhaustive those laws or policies are. That is probably where the challenge may be. And I think it's also in line with that the Cybersecurity Act 102 was passed. And like Doc rightly said, there are some issues, some specific issues that probably have not been really, really well covered, especially when it comes to women. But there are some the issues about child online protection are quite clearly stated. But I think that is the more reason why we need to have some of these discourse, engagement, discussions, and also to continue with the research as has been done. Because it's when we have these discussions and the research also points to the situation on the ground or the emerging trends, then we judge or we discuss and we see or we make recommendations to policymakers as to what could be done with existing or the possibility of introducing specific or new ones to address the issue as we are talking about now.
I have a big question to ask. Is it risky for women to be within the cyberspace in Ghana? But that question could be answered when we return from the break. This is Fact Sheet Live on ETV Ghana. Let's go for a quick break. When we return, the question is, are women really endangered in our cyberspace in Ghana? What do we need to do as a state to protect them? How much is it even costing us to still keep women at the periphery in accessing digital infrastructure in the country? These are questions that will dominate the next section of our discussion here on Fact Sheet. Welcome back to the show. This is Fact Sheet Live on ETV Ghana. I am Samuel Sifa. Danko, a bit of some additional information. Now, 8.2 million social media users were in this country as of January 2021. So it tells you that a lot more people are jumping onto social media platforms to express themselves. You know, that's a space where they are not restricted. That number, increased by 2.2 million. That's plus 37% between 2020 and 2021. The point is that the digital evolution is not going to end now. The earlier we realize that, the better. And then the better we implement policies, we introduce programs and interventions so that we can tap into the opportunities, the better. But the question has to do with the level of equity with which both men and women can access digital infrastructure in the country, not just in the country, but also across the world. Question that I asked before we went for a break is as to whether women are indeed at risk in using or accessing digital infrastructure in the country. And I'm asking this question based on the narrative that I read in the report that you've released, that women are dodging the use of internet or even accessing internet as a result of some of circumstances that they have experienced online. are women that threatened in a digital space?
Yes, and also no. There are, but this can be, what do you call it, handled or resolved through education and government interventions. And if we look at, like the research we did, the Ministry of Communication is engaging in several projects out of the ICT for Accelerated Development Policy to ensure that women are empowered in the use of ICT. So we have the Girl Child, Girls in ICT program. Yeah, and that is a good start so that we are able to get more women into the use of ICT. And so as they come out from school with the knowledge and the skill that they've acquired, they will be able to use these ICTs to, in every aspect of their life. Now, the issue here is that if we do not, as a matter of urgency, see the need to address women on right online as an economic issue, it's going to affect us, because in your initial figures you gave, women's failure to use the internet is causing the
some $1 trillion.
Yes. And that is very important.
That's huge money that could have been directed into areas like energy, areas like education, areas like health.
Yes, because why is it so? The most of the economy is driven by women in terms, because they have a lot of activities, trading activities that they do, and if they should be able to do this online, go online and do some of these activities, it will increase traffic on the internet, and thereby create some economic gains in that space. Another issue also that threatens their use has to do what my other colleague on phone talked about, is the cost of using these devices and the services. The devices are expensive, the cost of data is expensive, and in total, it becomes a burden for them to use. So most of them have phones, but they are not having smartphones that can be used to access the internet. They have feature phones or functional phones.
But even if they have smartphones, according to the International Telecommunication Union, they say that internet penetration in Ghana is somewhere around 50%. So it tells you that broadband or whatever GPRS is not, getting to all parts of the country.
Yeah, and that is also true. So very few of the women in the cities and the town have access to good quality internet services. If you move out of the cities, the internet quality is a bit poor, and so wasting time trying to get it connected, they don't have that luxury of time to do that. Now, in the Cybersecurity Act 1038, enacted in 2020, Article 66, Article 67, and Article 68 make certain provisions that is implied, covers everybody. And if you look at Article 68, subsection 1, section 1, it says, a person shall not threaten to distribute by post, email, text, or transmit by electronic means or otherwise a private image or moving image of other persons engaged in sexually explicit contact with the intent to harass, threaten, coerce, intimidate, or exert any undue influence on the person. Now, or especially to extort money or other consideration to compel the victim to engage in unwanted sexual activity. Now, this, we know that a lot of women are going through this, but in the act, we did not make an expectation that women, you shall not, but this is a general decision. So the subsection could have mentioned that in the case that the victim is a woman, certain provision should have been made. So this is a general provision that has been made, but we realize that we were not emphatic on certain things that had to do with women. Children were covered, so you can have the child honor protection aspect that has been covered, but women. So it is a bit of an issue, and that we need to begin to address. And I mean, I see it as a very good thing that Media Foundation for West Africa took the initiative to address this issue by tackling it from the source. And the source is enabling environment. What are the policies? What are the laws? What is in it? What is not in it? What do we tell government to look at? And I think that is a good thing that we are doing and just trying to discuss in this space. And I believe that some of these considerations, when it comes to the review of this act, some of this will be taken into consideration so that women will gain that confidence when they go online. They will have that assurance of their safety online and be able to use the internet and also help the economy to do in this space.
Dr. Kofi Annan, thank you very much. Hold on there for me. Let me go to the phone lines again and have a conversation with Dora Malta, who is the Programs Manager for Media Foundation for West Africa. Dora, as a woman, how threatened are you when you are within the cyberspace?
Okay, let me just say that I'm a program manager. There are a number of programs at the Media Foundation for West Africa. Well, you see, the issue of threat mainly comes, of course, the issues of economic empowerment, the financial issues, the affordability issues in terms of data, in terms of devices are there. But then two other things I want to really talk about when it comes to threats on the internet or digital space are the harassment and the know-how. So in terms of the harassment, I think I earlier talked about a bit about the stalking, the bullying, the doxing, impersonation, issues of body shaming, identity theft, and things. I will come to the identity theft and the impersonation in a while. But I was able to get this quote from one of the research that I made reference to earlier. So I'm quoting, and this is what one respondent, a Ghanaian female respondent, said in one of the research reports. She says, "I get called a whore, that I am a slut, that I'm intelligent, and then they ask that I should go away and bake a cake instead of being in this place." Who wants to be called that? What reason? For expressing her view, for contributing to any discourse, for wanting to express herself in whatever way she thinks best. We may not agree on all issues, but we can agree to disagree. And in communicating our disagreements, we may find the best civil way to do so. But if we call people names, if we shame their body type, so it's not that what the person is saying is not making sense, it's not contributing in any valuable way to the discourse. And so you are attacking what he or she is saying, but you are rather attacking the personality, the person's intelligence. You don't even know the person from Adam. But just because the person is a woman, the person has a particular face, the person has a particular body type, and that is used to describe her, to insult her, to pass any form of offensive comments on that person. I mean, of course, some men have that tough skin, and they can stand quite a lot of these things. But women are generally emotional, though not all. And some of these things really get at people. And so you just want to tread cautiously or just leave the space for your own safety and sanity. And talking about safety, when it comes, we talk about the bullying and the stalking, where people are following people online, almost wherever you are. So on Instagram, on Facebook, on Snap, on WhatsApp, the person is constantly following you. You know, it doesn't make you safe. And in one of the trainings that we had with some women, a lady recounted an experience she had where her picture had been photoshopped, and a particular company's logo had been put and embossed on her clothes, wearing a cap from that company and all that, and that had been used to dupe a lot of people. So she's walking in town, she doesn't know what's going on, and then people jump at her ready to lynch her. Okay, because her identity has been mistaken or fraudulently
used,
fabricated in a particular way to defraud people, and so it's not just an attack in the online space, but that attack moves from the online space to the physical world. And she walks and she's always looking behind her. How safe is she? Is this a space that she wants to be in? Is she not feeling threatened? Yes, she is. When you talk about identity theft, I think that's just one example cited. With doxing, people are able to provide people's contact addresses and home addresses so that people can actually incite people to go in and attack. That's also there. It doesn't make you feel safe in being in that space. And identity theft and access to personal data such that people are able to pick people's bank details and mobile money PIN and things. And talking about mobile money PIN, let me cite an example. I was in one office to do a registration, and there was a woman who had come and she had to make some payments via Momo. And then the gentleman says, okay, so I've gone through, so she couldn't do it on her phone by herself. I talked about digital literacy, that's one aspect. And so she gives the phone to the gentleman to do it for her. And now the gentleman gets to the Momo part and says, okay, key in your PIN. And keying in that PIN is a problem. She doesn't know how to do it. So she says, do it for me. The man says, do it yourself. She says, do it for me. And then by the time the guy says, do it yourself, then she starts calling the number. So she gives her PIN out. If you don't get someone who is, how should I describe it, faithful to the task that he or she has been assigned to, that information sits with the person, and the person can get into your account any day, anytime, and just make any transaction. Okay. So the issue of harassment comes with the direct threat. It also comes with the know-how. If the women have that empowerment or the knowledge to be able to say, okay, I can put on this two-factor authentication by way of security, I can change my password regularly, I can do this, I can do that. And when I am actually threatened, I know that I can go to the CID or the police or dial the National Cybersecurity Center or authorities 292 to report, then the person feels empowered and a bit safe in being in the space, because the person knows that if I'm able to put these security features in place, I can navigate safely. And even if I'm attacked, then these are the redress or the mechanisms or redress actions I can take. But as it is now, with lots of people not having that much information and knowledge about these things, women feel threatened being in the online space.
Dora, before you go, two quick questions. Can we can we quantify the impact this is having on women's involvement, not just within the cyberspace, but also in other sectors of the economy, in our politics? Can we quantify that?
I think in some way, somehow, you have tried to somehow address the question. In terms of quantification, I think we said to that. And so that's an area that we need to keep exploring. And in that, on that area, I would recommend that government also invest in lots of research so that we can help get evidence-based data to guide our decision making. And then academics or academia should also get involved in this. And of course, civil society organizations like the Media Foundation for West Africa. That would help us to get exact or close to exact quantities or figures in terms of some of the issues that we are discussing. But generally, You see, beyond just the physical and the fiscal, that's in the financial bit, it also affects people psychologically, emotionally, your well-being. Okay? Because if someone goes through a trauma of being nearly lynched or having her news photos go viral or in online spaces, the trauma that that person lives with after usually is not addressed. We just talk about the fact that the thing is in online spaces, we blame her, all that, and then it ends there. But what happens after, we usually do not pay much attention to. And if that counts the person, such that the person is not able to be herself again, she loses her her confidence and self-image, and depression sets in. Then anything economic activity and all that, educational, political, all the other aspects do not come in because the person doesn't have the right frame of mind to even engage in those spaces. So it's really a problem and a challenge. And we just hope as a foundation that as we raise these issues and as we discuss them, the policymakers will do their part, civil society will do their part, and media would also help because you have a big and a bigger platform that reaches lots of people far and near. And so if you're able to pick up the advocacy and we talk about these things, we sensitize, we empower women, and then the policy will also get on board from that side, then we can make a headway.
But a quick one. I know that, I mean, as a foundation, you are very particular and interested in digital platforms. You're very particular about journalism and its ethics. And you've been organizing a particular program dealing with ethics in journalism for over 5 years now. A quick one on that. And I know that this time around you're going to have another one. What will it focus on this time around?
Okay, thank you. So, of course, as the digital evolution keeps, for want of a better word, evolving, it also comes with its own issues. And one big issue is the issue of misinformation. So the West Africa Media Excellence Conference and Awards for this year seeks to talk about misinformation, digital media regulation, and journalism in general. And the focus this year in discussing this issue is to talk about the challenge of misinformation, how it can be addressed, and how the media can also support in fact-checking issues, and how the whole concept of fake news is increasingly forcing, if I should say, or governments are taking it, using it as a pretext to introduce new laws that end up repressing and restricting the media space for the media to work.
Okay.
And so that's what we're talking about. Wameka is 5 years this year, and we hope to have you and all our viewers join us in having the Wameka discussion this year. It's going to be both online and in person at Alisa Hotel. And I'll just encourage that as many as possible can go to our Facebook and Twitter pages and just register and join in having these discussions.
Okay. Dora, thank you very much for joining us this evening for this all-important conversation. So wrapping up, what must we do as a state going forward to benefit from the digital evolution? And in this regard, briefly, how we can position women to lead the fore?
So I think one of the ways is to ensure that we have adequate provisions in our policies and acts that addresses issues relating to women when it comes to the use of the internet and digital technology. And I also think that education is key, but we must make emphatic effort in terms of educating women in the use of ICT. And so if we can do what I call the mass digital literacy program, where we are looking at giving them basic education how to use these digital tools, that will go a long way to help them and give them the confidence to use the device, because that is an issue, and sometimes some of them feel embarrassed if they are not able to find their way through their devices, and thereby letting them seek assistance from a third party, and that is where the whole issue starts. And so if they have the confidence to use their devices without seeking assistance, it can go a long way to help protect them. Because most of the time, they give their device out, can you help me out? And people can be smart and just put something out without their knowledge.
Just like the narrative they are gave.
Exactly. And so the education aspect is key, but that will happen when we have enabling environment created by government. And I think civil society can also move into that direction, the donor community. And the telcos themselves can also change their business model to favor women in this area, to be able to bring on board more women using these services. And I think that will go a long way to change the face of women using the internet and other services.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kofi Annan, for joining us this evening on Fact Sheet and talking about this particular issue. And that's how we wrap up on today's edition of Fact Sheet. The show will be rebroadcast tomorrow, repeated tomorrow at 10 a.m. live here on ETV Ghana. My name is Sefa Dankwa. Up next is Girls Vibe with Ekumfi Princess. Good evening.